Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. In this video, I would like to share some of my visioning for 2024. So specifically, I would like to share my word of the year that I've chosen for 2024, my tarot card of the year, and my New Year's resolutions, which I have sorted into a couple of different kind of categories of life. Word of the year is something that I've been doing for a number of years now, and there's really not a kind of complicated procedure or process around picking this for me. I tend to get a feeling of what my word of the year is going to be around November, early December of the year prior. And I just kind of see what stands out, what's presenting itself to my consciousness as something that I might want to focus on in the coming year. And sometimes there's more than one, and I just kind of see what sticks and make a decision about that in late December, right before the new year. So for 2024, the word that I've chosen is intentionality. And I'm choosing intentionality based on one of the several dictionary definitions for it that I found, which is an attitude of purposefulness with a commitment to deliberate action. I like the idea of intentionality and of living deliberately, whether that is, curating a reading list, whether that is, being deliberate about media consumption, about social media engagement, about internet time, whether that's just being intentional about how I spend the free time that I do have, after work and on weekends and things like this. Ensuring that I'm doing all these things, ensuring that I'm living really in alignment with how I want to be living in alignment with my kind of principles and ethics and my desires and my goals. Really aiming in 2024 to be doing so deliberately, right? I don't like things that feel haphazard, and I don't like feeling like I've just wasted a day off at the end of a day off, realizing that I've just doom scrolled the news or, watched some random nonsense and not spent my time doing things I actually really would have wanted to spend my time doing. So intentionality is my focus. And in 2023, my word of the year was orientation or orienting. I do feel like there's a little bit of a phenomenological thread running through my thinking in the past couple of years, apparently, since these are both concepts that come up in phenomenology. And I found a quotation from Sarah Ahmed, a feminist thinker whose work I really love, talking about intentionality in a more phenomenological sense. She writes, "Emotions are intentional in the sense that they are about something. They involve a direction or orientation towards an object. The aboutness of emotions means that they involve a stance on the world or a way of apprehending the world." And I really like this as a way of thinking as well, bringing bringing deliberate attention, intentional attention to my outlook, to my thinking and being in the world. So intentionality is my focus. I have written it in my planner and in my memory keeping book, near the front so that it's prominent and in my mind. And I will be thinking about what intentionality means to me over the course of the year. For card of the year, I've done things a little differently this year than previously. So in 2023, I had a devil year, and I found the devil as my card of the year by calculating, as I know many of us do, using my birthday, so a 3 for March and a 5 for the 5th, and the digits of 2023, adding up to the devil. Now, for this year, I decided instead of adding to draw a card from a Majors Only deck. And this is not just because it would have been a tower year for 2024, moving out of the devil year and into the tower. There are things about a tower year that I actually find really attractive, if I'm honest. So it wasn't a desire to avoid the tower, but it was a choice to decenter the Gregorian calendar, effectively. It's beginning to feel a bit arbitrary to me to add together numbers of the year. It feels a little bit like alphanumerically adding together the letters that spell out my sun sign, for example, right? Why would I do this? It seems kind of random. And certainly were I using a different calendar system, I would end up with a different number, right? So I shuffled a deck, the Mindscapes Tarot by John Rice, which is a majors only deck. And I ended up getting the World. And this is the World card. And it shows a temple there reaching up into the sky and down to the water at the bottom of the card. So I really like here that you get a kind of earth, sea, and sky realms all represented. I feel like, it's a really kind of total vision in this World card, of all different kinds of terrain and, many different colors. I really like this this card. So I chose this by shuffling. And I noticed, something that's interesting about the fact that I've drawn the World card is that the World card is associated with Saturn. And I don't read tarot with astrological correspondences really, but in this particular deck, the glyph for Saturn is right there, at the bottom of the card, right? So there's Saturn. And getting a card that's associated with Saturn is interesting to me because starting in very early March at my birthday, Saturn will be my Time Lord of the year as I'm having a second house profection year. And in my birth chart, the second house is Capricorn. And there's lots of interesting things going on in Capricorn, particularly at the early point of the year, I think. So I'm struck by the fact that even drawing a card at random, I've ended up with one that does have an astrological connection to my 2024. And I've somehow ended up with something that feels like a quite natural fit. So I'm curious to see how this will go. I've never just drawn a card of the year before. Let me know in the comments if you draw a card of the year, if you calculate a card of the year, and how you approach that. I'm curious to see what a world year looks like when I've chosen the card deliberately. I will be doing, my friend Sarah at Waterchild Tarot has a video, I believe, outlining a 4-position reading about the card of the year. So I will be doing that for the World card, and I'll link below that spread if I can find it to get to know that card better. I'm curious to see how the World card turns up for me this year. I'll certainly be paying attention if it comes up in readings, but also be just exploring, that card and its correspondence with Saturn in the context of my kind of astrological year as well. Now, my resolutions, and I keep looking over here because I have a list, of course. I've been enjoying seeing a couple of folks talk about this idea of 2024s as a way of doing resolutions. So the idea that you would pick 20 things that you want to do 24 times throughout the year. And so you'd have 20 resolutions or activities that you want to do, and you'd aim to do them 24 times each as your 2024 resolutions. And there's something that I quite like about this. I like the kind of roundness of 20, but I don't tend to do well with things that start to feel like a challenge. like ticking off boxes and tracking in this particular kind of way doesn't tend to be something that I keep up. It doesn't tend to be something that I stick with. And thinking about the kinds of resolutions that I had for myself for 2024, it became evident fairly quickly that they weren't really going to fit into this format. I could probably come up with 20 things that I would love to do 24 times in the year, but I wanted to approach resolutions differently. So what I've done is I've come up with 20 resolutions for myself, And they span 5 areas. The areas that I've made resolutions in are book reading. I have to specify book reading when your channel is tarot and books, right? Reading could refer to lots of things. Book reading, art and creativity, and then my YouTube channel, my divination practice, and my druid practice. And of course, these things do have overlaps. You know, my druid practice does incorporate divination, for example. All of these things intersect with my YouTube channel in that I share content about them. So there is some overlap, but I've come up with 20 resolutions across these 5 areas. There is not an equal number for each one, but I've come up with 20 that I think will serve me well in the coming year. So I'd like to share those with you. And I'll start with my reading goals. And I will keep referring to the sheet. So number 1 reading goal, and this is a reading goal or resolution every year, really. I don't always necessarily write it down in the most explicit way, but it is the reading resolution for me always, is read a wide range of books by diverse authors and have a great time doing it. Read widely and have a good time reading. That's my number 1 reading resolution, and it is always the number 1 reading resolution. So that continues into 2024. I feel like I've done that in 2023, and I'm excited for another good reading year. Now, the next resolution is the numbers, right? For folks who review on Goodreads and or Storygraph, you know that these sites prompt you to set a goal for the year in terms of number of books read or in terms of number of pages read. Storygraph allows for a page number goal as well. And I don't take this too seriously, really. You know, I don't think that the number of books read is really the most important thing in my mind, but the goal that I've set for myself is 100 books and 30,000 pages. Now, I've read 100 books in 2023, and I've been setting 100 as my goal on Goodreads for a number of years. It started in, I think, 2020. I had set a goal of like 36 books, but I ended up reading 99, so I set it at 100 for the following year, and I've been setting it at 100 ever since. Some years I have read 100 books or maybe 1 or 2 more, some years less. It's not, you know, too important to me. I just don't want Goodreads bugging me for the entire year to pick a number. So that's the number I've picked, is 100 books and 30,000 pages. And 30,000 pages is about the number of pages I read in 2023. So I'm not looking to, you know, incredibly increase the amount that I'm reading in 2024. Just looking to kind of continue along, really. So that's the numbers that I'll be working with. But again, you know, in terms of resolutions, this is not one that I'm really dead set that I absolutely need to succeed in, because, you know, reading widely and loving books like is the point to me, right? I don't really care about the number, but there it is. My third reading resolution for 2024 is to reread 2 novels that I've read before. And those are Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. These are books that I read quite a long time ago now, like in my late teens. And they created a very strong impression on me at that time, but I also did not have the textual analysis and reading skills that I would say that I have now. So these need a reread for me. And so I got these new copies, fresh copies. They're not full of teenage me's pencil marks. Fresh copies to read. And for folks who are unfamiliar with the Parable books, Octavia Butler was writing these in the 90s. But they're set in the future. And Parable of the Sower is the first of the 2. And then Parable of the Talents is the sequel. And Parable of the Sower, the story starts in 2024. But Octavia Butler's vision of 2024 writing in the 90s. And so I feel like what better time to reread these and grapple with the ideas that Butler presents in these books than 2024. So I'm really looking forward to this. They're heavy. They're not easy reads. I think that they are going to be, hitting some difficult things for me to engage with right now, but I think that they're important. And they're important books to my thinking. Even though I read them so long ago, they've stuck with me. And so I'm looking forward to really engaging with these in 2024. My fourth reading goal for 2024 is to participate in 3 readathons. So I have been participating pretty consistently in a readathon for Black History Month every year for the past number of years. And I've also been participating in Asian Readathon for Asian Heritage Month for a number of years. And these 2 are always like 2 of my best reading months. The folks who put on these readathons here on YouTube do a fabulous job coming up with all kinds of great prompts that, then lead to all kinds of great reading experiences for me. So I want to find a third one. And the third readathon doesn't have to be for a particular kind of commemorative month like the 2 that I've been doing are. It could be something completely different. I'm open-minded, but it seems to me that readathons and working with the prompts tends to result in really good reading experiences for me. So I want to up that and have 3 readathons. This, I think, fits with intentionality as well, because the readathon is when I'm most tightly cultivating my reading list because I'm trying to satisfy the prompts. So 3 readathons. My last resolution in the reading category is that I would like at least one, if not a few, of the books that I read in 2024 to be in French. I have been trying to improve in and maintain my understanding of French. I have a epic streak on Duolingo, like 1,100 days or something. I don't think Duolingo really teaches you a language in any kind of full way, but it's certainly helping with my vocabulary. I would like to do some reading in French. I scoured my house to see if I had books in French in my house, and I have like a French dictionary and the Becherel, what is this, about verb conjugations and a couple of like reference books like that. But the only book that I have that's just a work of literature that's in French that's in my house is Le Petit Prince. So I'll start here. This is a reread. But I would like to find a few books in French to read. Just novels, I know that my library has a small selection, so that might be where I start, but I would like to read at least a few books in French this year. That is my reading goals for the year. The second area that I have made some New Year's resolutions in is art and creativity. And so I have 4 resolutions that are related to artistic expression and, the bardic arts, if you will. And the first goal is to read 2 books that I have had in my possession for quite some time, but have not yet engaged fully with. And those 2 books are Steering the Craft by Ursula Le Guin, a 21st century guide to sailing the sea of story. And this is a book of exercises that are related to writing fiction. Right? So the back of the book notes that this handbook is a short, deceptively simple guide to the craft of writing, specifically fiction writing. So I want to read this, and I want to read Wonder Book, the illustrated guide to creating imaginative fiction by Jeff Vandermeer, whose fiction I love, and Ursula Le Guin's fiction I love. So this is a illustrated one. I don't think that this is so exercise heavy as Steering the Craft is, but there's lots of fun graphics and things related to writing fiction in here. So resolution number 1 related to creativity is to read and work through Steering the Craft and Wonder Book, which does include doing the exercises. I would like to read those books. Goal number 2, related to art and creativity, is to write something fictional and not delete it. I have been trying to work up the courage, I don't know, to attempt to write fiction of some sort for quite a long time. But I'm so kind of in awe of people who write fiction well that I really struggle to think about doing this myself. I have published nonfiction, I have published a number of articles, but fiction I have never tried really. So I want to try, and I want to keep it and not deem it shitty and delete it. This doesn't mean I'm going to try to publish it anywhere. It doesn't mean I'm going to show it to anybody. I just want to keep it. And I know that the Steering the Craft exercises will probably help me because there is obviously writing involved, writing a paragraph about this or a paragraph about that. So I want to write some fiction and not delete it. That's goal number 2. And it could be a scene. It could be a page. It could be a very, very short story. I'm not looking to write an epic fantasy trilogy here. Just write something and not delete it at the end. Now, arts and creativity goal number 3 is to become proficient in and knowledgeable about the settings on this camera. I have been using this camera for quite a while now, and I have now amassed a little collection of lenses. I have 4 lenses, including the lens that came with the camera. And I feel like this collection of lenses is a well-rounded selection that will allow me to do a lot of different kinds of things. I did quite a bit of research on this, right? So I want to better understand and be able to use well all those fancy buttons that the camera has. And some of the lenses have settings as well. So I want to get better at doing that. And I have, to help me with that, the dummies guide of the camera that I have, which is the Canon Rebel T8i. So I have the dummy guide. There are also some YouTube kind of tutorials that I can work with. And of course the manual, the PDF manual that comes with the camera. So I want to get better at using this camera to its full potential, because I know that, the filming and that I'm doing and the photography that I'm doing with this camera could be better. And it could be better based on the capacities of the camera that I don't actually know how to use. So that's the 3rd goal. And the 4th goal for arts and creativity is to just experiment with more photography styles. I have gotten in a rut of birds at the bird feeder photography, if I'm honest with myself. I really like taking pictures of birds. I like taking pictures of birds in my yard, and I like taking pictures of birds. There's a bird sanctuary fairly close to my house where they have different bird houses and things. And I like to take my biggest zoom lens there and take bird photos. There are other things in the world other than birds. I don't want to abandon the birds completely, but I would like to try other kinds of photography as well. I would like to especially try landscape photography. I would like to try more, photography of very small things, insects. I really like photographing insects, but I haven't done a ton of that. Sunsets, and maybe even people, maybe even portraits. We'll see. I would just like to play around with different styles. Again, not that I'm going to do anything with these photos, not that I'm going to post them anywhere or print them or anything like that. I would just like to experiment with more styles, which will mean taking more photos, which I think I will really enjoy. So that's my arts and creativity goals, really fiction writing and photography focused. That's it. Now, the 3rd area of resolutions, my YouTube channel. I have 3 goals related to the YouTube channel. And one of them is, again, this kind of perpetual goal that's nothing new, but number 1, YouTube resolution. Have fun making videos and connecting with folks around shared interests. That's why I'm here. I don't want to be here and making videos if I'm not having a good time doing it. And one of the main reasons that I started my channel was to be able to, meet new people and have conversations about tarot, about things that we, share interests in that I don't necessarily have a lot of folks in my personal life locally who share those interests. So that's the goal, above all other goals here on YouTube, is to just have fun and, make connections with other folks. So that's the one that I really care about. The second YouTube goal is to feature more tarot book reviews. Given that my channel is Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books, I would like tarot and divination related detailed book reviews to be a thing that my channel is known for, if it's the extent to which it's known, which is not much of an extent really, but you know, I would like this to be a feature of my channel. I think it makes sense. I think it's a thing that, you know, not a lot of channels necessarily do, and I think it's something that I'm good at. You know, I've published book reviews in other contexts, so it's something that I want to do more of. Goal number 3 for YouTube is to continue my divination speculation series and make some more content connecting tarot and divination to ideas in philosophy and theory. I have some ideas for this, but I am always, you know, open to and thinking up new ideas and new ways of connecting different things from my philosophy and theory academic background with tarot and tarot adjacent topics. So those are my YouTube goals. Nothing particularly revolutionary here, you know, not looking to do a big 180 in terms of my content, but trying to focus a bit, you know, and focus a bit on the things that I think that I do that are perhaps a bit different than what other people are doing, or that best reflect what I think are my aptitudes in this tarot tube space. So those are my resolutions for YouTube, pretty straightforward. My fourth area is divination practice and divination study. And I have 4 resolutions here. Number 1 is designing spreads. I would like to this year make more of a point of designing spreads for commemorative times, for holidays, and just for needs that arise in my day-to-day life. You know, when I'm going to the cards to ask a question that I want help navigating in some way that I think divination is relevant for, I want to make a point of, you know, documenting spreads that I create, and also of creating spreads versus looking up spreads online. Lots of folks make amazing spreads. I, you know, have used and do use and appreciate and enjoy spreads created by a number of other folks, some of whom are here on TarotTube and some of whom are not. But I really want to spend more of my tarot reading time reading spreads that I designed. So that's goal number 1. Goal number 2, study Marseille techniques and use Marseille decks more. I have mentioned in a previous video that I'm at a point right now where I have a little collection of Marseille decks that I'm really excited about, that I really like. I have Marseille Prend de Vie by Auntie K. I have the Tarot Sirène, the Mermaid deck by Wandering Oracle, and I have the Gay Marseille Coming to Me from Charlie Claire Burgess that I backed on Kickstarter, which I don't have yet, but I will. And I want to spend some more time studying Marseille. Not just pips, but like Marseille specifically. So I've mentioned previously, I have, you know, the Untold Tarot, and I have a Yoav Bendov book as well. I want to spend some time really focusing on Marseille study this year. It's not necessarily the whole year, you know, but I want to make a point of using these decks and specifically looking at Marseille techniques and getting a bit more familiar with that. Number 3 for divination practice and study, I've written out as improve fluency in the vocabulary of astrology. I am engaging in learning about astrology in the context of my Druid practice as an apprentice in the AODA. I am learning more about astrology in the context of practicing geomancy and geomantic divination. I have been interested in astrology for a very long time, but I'm always awed by how little I know. And, you know, it's easy to get stuck, I think, on like a very basic understanding of, you know, learning the signs or something like this. I want to get better at speaking the language of astrology. And that means, you know, the visual language of charts and being able to look at a chart and glean things from that, but also kind of written language in terms of glyphs and terminology and things like this. Being able to talk about astrology in a good way. And I have the Astrology for Yourself workbook which I think will be really great to further delve into my own birth chart. And I'm also working with, I've shown previously, the Honeycomb Almanac to explore transits this year. So again, in making these goals, it was important to me to not make them so overly ambitious, particularly when I'm making 20 resolutions, that they're not doable, or that and I also didn't want anything overly quantified, if that makes sense. I'm a pretty qualitative thinker, really. So I'm not putting pressure on myself to like master astrology to a particular level, or to be a professional astrologer, or anything like that. Just improve my fluency with astrology as a set of concepts for understanding the world. That is what I would like to do. Number 4, and my last goal related to divination, is maintain a rhythm of divinatory practice. And this would be a flexible rhythm, but I would like to maintain a rhythm of divinatory practice. And by that, I mean I am doing a geomancy forecast for each sun sign season. I've been doing that this year. I want to keep that up. I have been maintaining a lunar cycle reading practice that is a tarot-based practice. I would like to keep that up. I've been doing daily draws involving tarot and oracle. That I think is going to change a little bit in terms of the prompts for those daily draws, but I would like to keep that up. I would like to keep a degree of regularity. And, I think there's merit to being flexible with things like this. I don't think we should lock ourselves in to something if it doesn't work, or like be so stuck on regularity that we can't change our practice and change our rhythm if we find that it's not working for us. But for me, I have a tendency to neglect myself and neglect my practice when shit gets hard. I have a tendency to drop things when I really need them. So I am at this point more interested in maintaining a rhythm and maintaining that routine than I am giving myself infinite flexibility to just pick it up and drop it, right? Because when I drop it, it's not good for me. And I know this about myself. So I want to maintain that routine, and have divination be a part of my life in a regular way that feels like a good, comfortable, natural rhythm that I can maintain even when things aren't going so well, when I need that most, right? So that's my divination goals. And last but not least is Druidry. And I came up with four Druid goals. And this is the last 4. So number 1, and this is the biggest one. Number 1 is the biggest one. I would like to become a companion in the AODA and complete the mentoring and leadership qualification. So I'm an apprentice now. Companion is the next degree up in AODA. And in addition to the apprentice curriculum and completing apprenticeship, which takes 2 years minimum, there is an optional mentoring and leadership component that you can earn by being a mentor to candidate degree, which is the first degree folks in the order. And also there's aspects of learning things like the initiation rituals to be able to initiate a new member, and the grove opening and closings to be able to facilitate group ritual in Druid context. So that's the mentorship and leadership piece. And I want to do that. And I'm in the process of doing that. The 2 years minimum that my apprenticeship can take, that 2 years will be coming up for me in August of this year. I have one book left to read, and it's actually a reread for me. I chose Pantheologies by Mary Jane Rubenstein as one of my books. That is a book that shapes and influences and speaks to, in some way, my personal philosophy as a Druid. So this one I need to reread, but I've read the rest of the apprentice curriculum already. And of course I'm making notes and working through other aspects of the curriculum, learning the grove opening and closing, learning the initiation rituals, doing all the work of apprenticeship. So I don't know that becoming a companion is a thing that I'm going to feel quite ready to do in August the second I'm able to. It might be more like a December goal, but I would like to progress to companion in the AODA this year. It's a big It's a big goal, but I think I can do it, and I feel ready. I will feel ready. I'm kind of aiming for winter solstice time, so about a year from the time that I'm filming this, as becoming a companion. Number 2, my second Druidry resolution that I wrote down is to get creative with workings, rituals, and observances. So we have in AODA rituals that are really more like templates than anything else. We are very encouraged to make things our own. We're very encouraged to customize things to our cosmologies, to our needs, to our own ways of practicing. And I want to ensure that I'm documenting when I'm doing that. And I want to really, again, like intentionality, deliberateness. I want to spend time this year finding applications for things like our sphere of protection ritual, things like our grove opening and closing. Finding and developing applications of those things that make sense for me as a druid, right? And perhaps publishing some of those in AODA's journal at some point. We'll see. I'm not dedicating myself to that right now. I'm not committing to that piece right now. I'm not planning to publish this year necessarily. I want to get creative with rituals. I want to keep exploring what these templates can do. So that's the second resolution for Druidry. The third one is to choose a druid name. And, people have druid names or craft names, witchcraft names, for a whole host of reasons. Having a craft name is not unique to Druidry, nor is it unique to the AODA. It's certainly not required. It's not a thing everybody does. It's something that I've really kind of gone back and forth on, whether it's a thing that I felt a need for, or whether it's a thing that I felt like I wanted. But I would like to have a druid name. And for me, a big part of wanting to have a druid name is thinking eventually, and this is not a 2024 thing, but thinking eventually about publishing. Publishing written work in druid publications, in perhaps tarot publications, in this kind of sphere of things. And I would like to have a kind of craft name to publish under. I don't plan to publish under my legal name. I have a body of published work under my legal name that has absolutely nothing to do with anything here, right? It has nothing to do with my druidry or my spiritual practice or my divination practice or anything like that. So I do want to keep a degree of separation. Not that I'm opposed to people from one context knowing that I'm active in the other. It's just I do want to keep the names distinct there. So finding a druid name. This is a kind of resolution that if I don't find it, if it doesn't come, it doesn't come. I'm not going to force it, but I'm going to be paying attention. I'm going to be paying attention to things that might suit me in this area. So I'm hopeful that a druid name will present itself to me. We'll see. And the last goal, the last of the druid practice goals and the last of the resolutions for 2024 is deepen my alignment with the cycles and seasons of nature where I live. And this is a very general, broad resolution. This, for me, is the work of Druidry. In a very real sense, I think that living seasonally is a huge part of Druidry, not just for me, but generally. And so much of AODA, Druidry, is about getting to know your natural environment, learning about your natural environment, learning to live in good relations with the others who are in your natural environment, animals and plants, right? So living seasonally and cyclically for me, that encompasses things like my divinatory rhythms, that I've talked about already, encompasses things like awareness of astrological weather and atmospheric weather, further getting to know my neighbors, my non-human neighbors, but also, living seasonally is things like eating more seasonally, right? Cooking more in tune with which produce is most in season at any given time. Being mindful about engaging in and enjoying and appreciating different seasonal activities, observing how my environment changes season to season. All of these things are kind of folded into this last resolution of being more and more aligned with the seasons. And I think that there's so much, about capitalist living, frankly, like capitalism as a way of organizing ourselves that really works to disconnect us from those cycles and those seasons, that demands that we be perpetually productive regardless of, what the environment is telling us, Sometimes it's time to fucking hibernate. Sometimes it's time to slow down or, build up our stores or expend a lot of energy or, be outside all the time. Like all of these things, I want to pay attention to those things and I want to try to align myself with those things. And I feel like part of that for me lately has been decentering the calendar. Doing more things in rhythm with solstices and equinoxes and midpoints and seasons and moon cycles and, zodiac seasons and less weekly, monthly kind of stuff, right? And so I'm curious to see where that will take me this year. It's a very broad goal, but I will be, journaling and sharing as I go, and I think that I will learn about my environment, about myself in the process. So that is it. 20 resolutions for 2024. I feel really good about this list. It feels simultaneously ambitious and doable. And it feels like it, the combination of these resolutions really feel like they reflect the kind of year that I hope to have in 2024, what I hope to be doing with my time, what I hope to be learning, what I hope to be sharing here, and what I hope for my intellectual and mental and spiritual life. So that's where I'm at for 2024. I'm enjoying seeing other folks' resolution videos and planners and what folks are thinking about doing in the coming year. And if you have any goals that you would like to share, if you haven't already on your channel, if you have one, if you would like to share your resolutions, let me know in the comments if there's something particular that you're working on. If we have any in common, let me know. I would love to chat about resolutions with you. I thank you so much for watching. I wish everybody a happy 2024, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.